Who has been the best new addition to the starting lineup since last season? I guess you could put Christian McCaffrey in that mix, but there's been a lot of new additions.
I know who I'm going with.
There's been a lot. Go ahead. Travarius Ward, Talanoa Hufanga. There's so many guys.
Nope. I'm going big Aaron Banks.
Aaron Banks, that's another good one. That's another good one.
Banks has been really good, and I'll give it up to Lynch because, and I know you noticed it as well. Everybody was bagging on Banks. Banks is inactive. He's only been active 2 times, and then finally Lynch had enough, and is like, hey. For all you guys, pouring sand on Aaron Banks, this just in. We still think Aaron Banks is going to be a hell of a player, and this guy's going to be in the league for a long time. And that made a lot of people who were kind of crapping on Banks go, well, wait a second. Lynch is doubling down on Banks. Sure enough, Lynch is right. Banks has been a revelation. Speed, power, strength, smarts. He's a nice player at left guard.
He's like everything that Mike McGlinchey isn't. And the reason I compare them is that they both went to Notre Dame. They have similar pedigree. And what the difference is, McGlinchey was the first-round pick, the top 10 pick. Banks was the second-round pick. There's a difference. And so with McGlinchey, the Niners drafted him to start right away, to replace Trent Brown. They anointed him. He never earned the job. And what they say about him is, what Joe Staley said about him is he's a little insecure about his weaknesses, that he won't necessarily attack them and be honest with himself about the weaknesses and improve them. He's more trying to pretend he's already good. And what Kyle said about Banks today is that he doesn't run from his weaknesses. He said all the stuff that the Niners wish they could say about Mike McGlinchey. So the fact that they put him on the bench for a year, they made him prove it. They made him rework his body, rebuild his entire body. And he basically gave him a challenge he had to rise to. Apparently, he worked harder than any player on the team, or as hard as any player on the team this offseason. It worked. It paid off. I don't know if McGlinchey's ever been put in a position like that where he had to prove himself. So kudos to the Niners to developing Banks the right way. I don't know if he could have done this last year.
Yeah. I mean, Banks has got more natural gifts. He's got a better body to play guard than McGlinchey has a body to play tackle. And now McGlinchey's beat up. McGlinchey, I think, was operating at a pretty high level for a first-year player, much higher than most tackles. So I don't have a problem with the fact that
he was a good run. He was a good run blocker for a couple of years.
He has regressed because his body is beaten up. I mean, he struggles to get to the line of scrimmage. He's probably nursing about 5 different injuries. That's not an excuse, but it's a reason. And he's never been he doesn't bury you in the run game. He's more like takes the right angle, doesn't make mistakes, but
gets
he's
downfield.
But he also kind of, susceptible to the speed rush. Now his game's falling apart. They didn't pick up the 5th-year option, right? I imagine he goes in free agency at the end of the year.
And he's not having a particularly great contract year. All right, I'm gonna list someone else as a best new addition. Travarius Ward has been excellent, but I feel like the real biggest addition, at least on defense, has been Talanoa Hufanga. We talked about him earlier. He's not a perfect player. He gave up a touchdown, and it was not a good play. And it seems like as the season goes on, teams are going to try to isolate him in coverage more and more. Still, he's a playmaker. And it's kind of like Richard Sherman. You could go after Richard Sherman, and you could get some. He's not the fastest guy. He might give up some catches, but you target him 5 times in a game, you might get picked off once. Like, do it at your own peril. And I think what's interesting is he replaces Tart. And Tart was a solid safety he could play both positions. He could be in the box. He could be in the post. The defense is better with Talanoa Hufanga. He's a playmaker. And he also, in addition to his play, he takes accountability, which I don't think this team really does. Ever since they lost the Super Bowl, but partied with Lil Wayne afterward and said they should have won because Bosa got held, I feel like the whole attitude has been off. He comes to the post-game press conference last night, the hero, because he made the interception that Tart couldn't make in the NFC Championship game, just to close it. And he says, first of all, that was my fault, that touchdown at the beginning of the game. That was on me. I want to take credit. No one was even asking him about it. We were going to be up there and be like, can you take us through that interception? Wasn't that great? Take us through that a million times. He was like, nah, let's talk about that touchdown I gave up. That was my fault. Gotta love that. You don't hear that very much from the 49ers.
Oh, he's the best, man. He's the best. I mean, seriously. Now,
you never hear that from Mike McGlinchey. I'm sorry to keep coming back to Mike McGlinchey, but he's never done anything wrong in his eyes.
Yeah, I mean, Hafanga's, I'm not saying McGlinchey's not accountable, but I'll just say Hafanga is extraordinary. But I'll also say this, when we were talking before we went live here, and Hafanga is not the player that people said he was on draft day, a special teamer strictly who, isn't fast enough at all to play coverage in the NFL.
Maybe a linebacker. Yeah.
He's not that guy. But then he's also not this like, oh my God, he's an all-pro strong safety, and there's nobody in the league that matches.
He's
up.
Troy Polamalu.
Yeah, he's Troy Polamalu, and he's headed to Canton. He still has issues. His issues are in coverage in the deep quarter of the field, and that remains an issue. And that first play, it was a zone, but he was the closest defender. That was pitch and catch. That was almost like a busted play, so he has to improve his pass coverage down the field. Now, he's more competitive. He's going to improve. He's going to work on his deal, but he does lack some long speed, and that's going to be his career issue going forward. He's up on the line of scrimmage against the run, cover three, great instincts. He sees it. There's no hesitation. He just goes. But down the field, in coverage, in space against an athlete, he's still very vulnerable. So, just something that you got to know yourself, and he knows himself, and I'm sure he'll work on it, but that's the weakness in this game, clearly.
But it seemed like on that touchdown that it wasn't necessarily that he just got smoked athletically, that he also has a tendency to have his eyes in the backfield, even if he shouldn't. And he knows he's not a premium athlete, and he's trying to break early and be instinctual. And, a guy like that can be right 9 times out of 10. But the one time you have a feeling and you break early and you're wrong, it's a big play if the quarterback recognizes it. And I think that's maybe the life you're going to have to live with Talanoa Hufanga. But you know what? It's better than having 2 safeties who hang back and never make plays on the ball, and the best thing they do is tackle. Like, I'll take Talanoa. I like a safety like that, and if he can get a little bit better, a little bit more consistent, he could be a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro.
Well, I mean, there are some guys who are awesome going forward and can't go backward. There's other guys that can go backward and are not much going forward. He is, and there are guys who are great at both. He's a guy who, if you think about it, every great highlight of his career, outside of the one play that he made at the end of the Green Bay game in the playoffs, almost every other highlight is him coming forward. You hardly have any highlights of him going backward. Yeah. So that tells you what kind of player.
Well, the highlights of him going backward are him chasing the guy for the touchdown. Christian Kirk caught the ball over his head last year. Colt McCoy just eviscerated Talanoa last year. Colt McCoy. So, hey, Talanoa, revenge game, baby. That's on you.
Way, Colt McCoy last year in that game completed 84%.
It was unreal. Are the Cardinals better with him than with Kyler? Because the Niners have actually done a good job against Kyler like the last 3 times they faced him. You
didn't see the Cardinals on HBO Max, did you?
Oh, no.
Go check it out. The Cardinals.
Hard Knocks.
The Hard Knocks. They're already fighting. DeAndre Hopkins and
I saw that. I saw that. I did see that.
They were giving each other funny looks. I mean, that's a S show, man. That's an S show. That's a team that's coming apart at the seams.
I'd love to see them go on and run with Colt McCoy and try to figure out what to do after giving Kyler Murray like $1 billion. What do we do? I don't know. I guess we just stick with Colt McCoy. The thing about Colt McCoy is it seems like he operates the offense the way Cliff would like it to be operated. Cliff, I don't know what Kyler does. I mean, he has a very bad winning percentage after Call of Duty comes out. They tried to put a homework clause in his. It doesn't look like he really knows what he's doing, and he's just out there winging it, which is fun. But I don't know if that's going to get it done. Maybe they're better off with Colt. I don't know.
Well, and Colt in a lot of ways is made. I mean, you remember Colt at Texas completed like 77% of his passes. Nothing's more than 15 yards down the field. That's Kingsbury's offense. Get rid of it quick, underneath, with accuracy. In a lot of ways, I think you make a really compelling point. I think you can make an argument that Colt McCoy might have greater success than Kyler running that Kingsbury offense.
Right.
But there's just a lot of bad vibes with the Cardinals. Lots of unprofessionalism. Lots of Lots of glimpses into dysfunction there, from the owner to the coach to the GM to the quarterback to some of the veterans on the team to their practice habits to the way they reacted when it rained in Arizona. I mean, watch 2 episodes of that Hard Knocks with the Cardinals and tell me that they're not an S show.
I have a hot take. I think Kyler's in the wrong system for him. I think he'd be better off playing for Kyle, getting under center and being able to get out on the perimeter off play action. I mean, just staying stationary in the shotgun. He's 5'9". He can't even see down. He can't even see from the pocket. Why do you want him in the pocket? The only time he can get out of the pocket is when he leaves on his own. Kyle does a good job of moving. Well, when he doesn't have Jimmy Garoppolo, does a good job of moving launch points and other traditional. I think he's in the wrong scheme. That's my thing.
Bring Kyler to Santa Clara is what you're saying?
Absolutely. He can back up Trey Lance. DR prioritized shutting down Eckler. Can't fault it. Yeah, but you can't also let guys like Carter. You can't let DeAndre Carter look like DeAndre Hopkins. You can't let that happen. And it was happening for a second.
He's Sac State. He's
the Niners. The Niners brought him into camp in 2017 and cut him, and then he ended up going up for like 80 yards against him. Good for DeAndre. A lot of guys.
He's a vet, man. He's been around, man.
Yeah. DeAndre Carter got a little revenge on the Niners. Dante Pettis, Jerick McKinnon. Am I missing anyone? It's been that kind of a year.
Yeah. Seriously.
It's been that kind of year. All right. Well, that's the show for today. Larry, what you got on the docket for the week?
The Niners are in Colorado Springs, so won't be going to practice on a Wednesday or Thursday, but we will be doing live streams throughout the week, talking a little bit about the schedule ahead and the Cardinal game and the games that follow. So we'll do that. We'll do a little Warrior post game tonight after Warriors Spurs, and it'll be kind of a combination, a little post game. I went live last night in the car on the way home, and then a little bit at home. But we'll go live tonight after the Spurs game, talk a little Warriors, talk a little Niners, maybe even look ahead to Aaron Judge signing with somebody other than the Giants.
The last 5, 6, 7 years, I haven't talked much about the Warriors. I used to cover all teams. I find them boring.
I see you tweeting Warriors every now and then. You're getting
when I said I found them boring. Somehow, like, winning is what fans want, but from a journalist perspective, I think dramatic tension is what I like, and there was none of it with the Warriors. So now there is, and they're very interesting. Like, is their title window closing prematurely because Joe Lacob wants to have 2 timelines? This is very interesting. So all of a sudden I'm hooked. This is a great season.
Is
absolutely.
James Wiseman a total bust?
He might be. Are people afraid to say? Anyway, so it seems like this is a very fun year.
Oh, I would die if how much could we get some sponsor to have you on asking Kerr questions in the post game?
The thing is, I feel for Kerr.
Steve,
yeah.
Where was Kuminga? What has Kuminga not done to not get any minutes? It would just be awesome.
I do feel like Kerr, this is a Lacob thing, and Kerr probably would agree with us privately. Like, yeah, man, he's making me play. These kids are terrible. Like, sorry, bud. He writes the checks. Yeah. Oh, well. See, Turley, hey, stop giving me money, and the show is over right now. What is that 33-yard pass from Jimmy G to Ray the nicest pass you've ever seen from him? I think it was.
Jimmy looked good last night. Jimmy ought to take last night's film and cut it up for the highlight reel.
It might have been the nicest throw he's ever made. When is the Cohn phone this week? Maybe I can join. Good question. I don't know. Let me figure that out. I'm going to be on the road in Colorado Springs. On Saturday, I'm flying to Mexico. I don't think I get into like 2:30 in the afternoon. But that might, what is that, like 3 hours ahead? I have no idea. So let me figure it out. But I'll do one. I'll let you know.
You got to go live from Mexico City.
Oh, absolutely. I will, of course.